Hey, it's really hard to find a time that I'm not eating. I have to eat because of my abdominal conditions. I have to eat 7 times a day because of one particular one, like just small meals. But I forgot a part that was like absolutely key to my story. At the very end, I was just trying to get through the story, and I was in a lot of pain when I did that. So I can't remember exactly where I left off, but it was before I moved in here. I was in a place where, as you know, I didn't want to live anymore because my pain was that bad. My pain is that bad, and I do all the things that I do, keeping busy, working out, working, chores, walking, exercising, because of this, because it's horrible. So I fill my day with a lot of activities like this. Like as you can see there, I spray painted that lacquer like a 1988 Mustang, like muscle cars, and so I'm kind of actually dying to get to finish it off here, but I want to do this. So like I'm building a model here, so I was left in a place where I was very alone, and my mother had died in 20. I didn't say this in 2017. I was up on my feet after being in that hospital that I told you about, walking the hallways with terminal cancer equivalent pain, just pacing them, and I'd built up strength by walking to Kingston from Ottawa. And I biked back, right? So that was a pretty good feat. In 2017, my mother was dying of stage 4 breast metastasis, like it was in her bones, so it was a bone cancer, but called breast metastasis. And she had lived for the full 10 years. God bless God for letting that. And I felt kind of short-handed because I couldn't do anything about it. I barely spoke because I didn't have the right medications to kill the spasms in my throat, in my stomach, my abdomen. I still spoke by that time, but not a lot. I was in a lot of I didn't have my diagnosis for very serious stuff, and I wasn't on a long-acting painkiller, which made my life very horrible. But my mother had, I remember she told me she had a tumor in her liver, and I was so out of it, I didn't even really know, like, this is probably the end for her. But I guess I kind of knew. You had to see my state. Like, maybe I'll transfer from this computer to this computer a picture of what I look like, but I don't want to put my family in it. Maybe I can use Canva and take that out. I'll try to show you a picture of what I look like. And I biked. I went, even though I was in that pain, I went and I canvassed all over the neighborhood, and I raised like $3,000 or $4,000 for my mom, because I promised them that I was going to bike 1,000 kilometers, and I said I was going to do it in 10 days, and I did it. I did that, but I still wasn't in good shape. Not like I love my mom, it was horrible losing my mom, and it was a horrible funeral experience for me. I was in such bad shape. I was having panic attacks. It was like 30 degrees in the church, a suit with all these conditions. I don't even want to. My life was very, very hard to tolerate. I don't know another person. I never heard of another person in this shape. Like, that's being as honest as I can. I I came to a point where, like me and my dad just didn't get along. It was because it was in close quarters, and I was an agitated person, obviously, right, with these abdominal conditions. My neck is messed up now, and like all my nerves are torn, in the back of my head and my jaw. My neck is torn. I have a brachial plexus. Like, I'm not doing well. It's, like 2 or 3 years on, but those things don't heal very well, and that pain stays. I knew that suicide was wrong. I knew it was. But I couldn't handle it, and I didn't want to live this way. And I just want to say quickly, I don't want to try to justify it. Just that one disease, just the one out of 13 is equivalent to terminal cancer pain in the legs, all the legs, and the lower back. You can go look through YouTube to see people. I suppose now I'm one of the lucky ones, but I wasn't. I was couch-bound, bed-bound for nearly a decade. But there are people, and I saw them on CTV News, I saw them on CBC, that they're waiting to have their lives ended. So I didn't feel so, well, I guess speaking to you now, I don't feel so bad, just that one condition, okay? So imagine living with terminal cancer pain from the age of 30. That was my reality, okay? And that was just one of 4 pain suicide diseases. And I'm going to have to take a water break here. I'm trying to stave off kidney stones. I don't have one now, but I have to keep this up. I wanted to go to the MAID program. I applied. I also applied to it's called Dignitas in Switzerland. I don't want to give people ideas, but these places are well known now. But they wouldn't accept me because I didn't have my diagnosis. I felt so unworthy, I can't even begin to tell you. My own doctors weren't even questioning why I was walking slower than a Parkinson's patient. It was like advanced Parkinson's. That's what it looked like. Yes, I could bring myself to walk quicker, but it caused a lot of pain. And so that was more like 2015, 2016. 2017 wasn't like that, because I had started to really try to build myself up. So I started researching stuff, started looking at things, and I came to the conclusion, why am I letting these people have the say? And but I didn't want to go out, and I didn't want to go do anything that would, and this was it. This is what it came to. You don't want to have a family member later being angry at you, after your death, saying why I never knew what was going on. And I spoke to my dad about this. I said, I want to die by my own hand, and I want to do this by telling my family first. Is it legal? Is this what people do? This is a worthwhile story to tell, but turn away if you don't want to hear what happens. And so I had spoken to, I spoke to lawyers, top lawyers in Toronto, concerning what the legalities are. They were good enough to talk to me, because that's actually what they do, about people ending their own lives. So these people are easy to access. And they said, if you do it, if you have whatever device it is, and you do it by your own hand, it's legal. You can do it in your own home. You can have your family watch, and they won't get in trouble. So I felt good about that. And the view that I had was, I have to do this responsibly this time, because here I was going out into forests, going out wherever I went, and trying to hang myself and do things in secret. I didn't like it. I called a family meeting after I knew. I spoke to the suicide communities. I'm not going to say suicide communities. I'm going to say it was called exit communities, for people who were so far gone with dementia, with Alzheimer's, with ALS, those types of things, and so they were very willing to help. I was in a bad way, man. In a bad way. So what I did was I spoke to them, and I started. It wasn't easy to get a simple pill, okay? It just wasn't, and I'm not going to give anyone ideas. Well, except I have to include this in my story. There was one way. I called a family meeting, okay? I knew what I was going to do, and I had it set up. I purchased it, like it was bought, and it was ready, and like it was a tank. You put a mask over your head. It was called a something exit. That's all I'm going to tell you. And it was very deadly. If you cut off your oxygen, it cuts off your oxygen, right? That's what it does. I made a family meeting, and what I did was I took a bristle board and I drew on it what I knew what was really painful in my body, and it was a lot of stuff, and I may even still have that, but I showed it to them. I told them, like, I knew it was the pain suicide disease. I just didn't have a diagnosis then, okay? And I told them I have the worst pain on earth. I can't stand this. It was a family meeting. They'd obviously heard a lot of stuff that had happened to me over the years. Like 2 of my brothers visited me in the hospital after I did that with my neck. And they didn't like it, but I did the right thing, and so my whole family came over. We had a meeting, and it was decided, fine, if that's what you want to do, then we'll support you with that. So I tried to do it the right way. I didn't want to do it like that. It was just it was shameful. There was no dignity in it at all. I gotta move. Just pardon me. I gotta pace. It's pain in my abdomen. So after that, I had to come up, with a specific time, but I didn't provide my family with a specific time. But I lived with my dad, and my dad knew about it. I obviously kept him in it, and I said, Dad, will you be there when this happens? I don't want to be alone. And he said yes. And I tell you, I feel really bad about doing that. I just wanted someone to be there, and so my dad, he recommended getting last rites. Okay, so at that time I wasn't into scripture, like studying it. Okay, I knew some of the Bible, but last rites, in the Catholic system still, and there was a really nice priest, and he had presided over my mother's funeral, but I had a horrible experience in a beautiful cathedral. And he came and he spoke to me, and I didn't tell him what I was going to do, but he did. He gave me last rites. But I'm going to tell you something. When my dad reached him first, he called me. But I'd lived in that home for almost 40 years. So I think it was, yeah, almost 40 years. It's like 38 and some years. In all that time, nothing like this happened. So he passed the phone to me, and he started talking to me. When I started talking to this priest, all of a sudden the phone just died in like a strange kind of way. It was like 3/4 of the volume went down, and I could barely hear him, and then it shut off. And I can tell you that, landline telephones are pretty solid, right? And in all the time that I'd lived there, never had it gone down that I had ever remembered. And I asked my dad too, if it was in a storm or something, right? So that happened. And I believe that was a sign. He came over. This guy later had a heart attack right after a church service right outside the church. He was a very nice man. We talked for quite a while, and so we did all that kind of stuff. Then I had to decide on a date. And I think, I don't know, it may have been 2 weeks or so after I'd spoken to my family. This is longer than I thought it would be. I can't, it's hard to gauge this. To do it in this pain, I had to set this up. I had to bring, I wanted to experience some things before I died. I wasn't eating okay. I couldn't eat chocolate. I can't drink milk. I can't have all these things. And I'm like, I'm gonna eat some chocolate. I had given up smoking cigarettes. I'm gonna smoke some cigarettes before I die, because I loved smoking. I haven't smoked in a long time. I used to be a chronic smoker. And I'm gonna bring a little bit of alcohol to help me, not to get me buzzed or drunk or anything. It was so that I could move around my home and be somewhat comfortable when I was doing this. It wasn't about needing needing to be strong to die. It wasn't like that. It wasn't that. I had a lot of pain, and it really helped. It was like an NMDA receptor agonist. It really helped my pain. So I had a tank in my room, okay? I erased this kind of stuff from my other video on purpose because I didn't like it there, but you're going to listen to this. I had it in my room. I had a mask made for it to put over my head. It was made specifications. It was correct. And on that day, I had my dinner, okay? I had dinner by myself, the same dinner I eat today. Fish and vegetables, except I eat a lot more today. I sat by myself. It was like probably 4 or 5 o'clock before any of this. And as I'm eating, there's a wicked thunderstorm. And I mean, it's lightning very close. And it's starting to scare me. It's starting to scare me. Like, why does it have to be like a killer storm right now? This is very hard to do. I have a lot of abdominal pain. I hope this volume isn't low, you know? I hope I don't have to. Just pardon me a second. Actually, I don't want to do that. I'm going to keep it like this because when I do this, I may have to change the volume settings every time I plug in this camera. That's why you hear it go low sometimes. I hope it's not like that. Pardon me a sec. Talking for more than half an hour is very tough. So that scared me. That thunderstorm scared me. It was very close. The thunder and lightning was very close. It started to get darker. I set up a table in my room. On that table, I put pictures so I could look through of my family and memories. I put like toffee phase, like things like, maybe Swedish berries or something. Very petty things that'd make me sick if I ate. I didn't have colic medication then. And I might have, but I just couldn't eat. I wasn't treated properly for my pain at all. So I was sitting on the edge of my bed, and I would sip a bit of, it was just a liqueur. And I was sipping it until I noticed some of my pain going away. I would go out and I would smoke a cigarette, and the alcohol would make it okay for me to smoke, because usually it'd make me very sick. So I started looking through these things. I remember crying. I remember even my aunt calling me. I'm like, that was a strange time for you to call. I'm like, I wonder if my dad set that up on purpose to persuade me from doing this. I talked to her for a very short time. I didn't say anything pertaining to what I was about to do. So it started getting late. I have my music set up in my room. And the strange thing was I was starting to feel good because, a little bit more alcohol, and that's, of course, what it was doing. And I was taking more painkillers to kill the pain. And so, this was the end of my life. I had this tank set up in front, and if I do it, it's legal if I turn it. So I'm with my dad. He's waiting. He's good enough to sit waiting. I feel bad for him. Have my music playing, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at all. It wasn't easy at all. A lot of people out there have no idea this is a pain suicide disease. I've got 4 of them and 13 conditions in all. My life is very hard. That's just where I was, okay? I wasn't saved. I'd put up with 20 years, nearly 20 years of going into doctors and hospitals, not being, I was obliterated in my mind mentally because they weren't telling me the things that I was suffering with. That was very tough on me. So it started getting later and later. I was like 11, 12. I was having good conversations with my dad, and I would do some tests. I would turn it, and there was a gauge on it too. I would turn it, I would test it, I would fill it up. It worked. The mask filled properly, so I knew. And I did it, and it was nitrogen. I would shake his hand. I would say, sorry we don't get along, and I love you and all that kind of stuff, and put on the correct song. Has to be right here so it can give me enough balls to do it. That's not easy. It's not easy. I would equate it with the same with going into war. It would be the same feeling that you have to get over. But no, they're not the same. I just wanted my suffering to be over with. So it was around 2 in the morning. All of a sudden, I'm like fumbling with the mask, and it starts to come apart. And it caused me a lot of agitation. There's like liqueur, the sugary, it's kind of making me sick. I'm hot and I'm sweating. My dad's waiting. I can't keep him up forever. And fix it. It fills properly. When I turn the tank, it sounds really, really loud. It was a big tank, like it was big. I don't know, it was like maybe 20 liters or something. It was big. It was supposed to be more than enough, but I remember, I was a very restless person, okay? So when you're super restless, like you see me going back and forth here because of my abdominal pain, you let things go by you sometimes. It was running too quickly, and the gauge was incorrect, and there was supposed to be like 20 minutes in there, and 5 minutes was enough. 5 minutes was enough. I shook my dad's hand. I had a song playing. I lay back in my bed. I thought he was gonna, he said, let's do this another night. And at that point I said, I know I got to do it. I filled it up, or I forget how it goes. It's like you fill it up, you put it over your head or something like that, and then there's like a drawstring, and I inhaled it and I was out. I was out. It put me out immediately, so I know it worked. I blacked out. This next part is scary as hell. Maybe not for you, but it was for me to hear this. Just give me a second. Like I do these videos, and I try to keep on a timeline, right? Because I have a schedule to follow. So I'm gonna try to say this as quickly as I can. Next thing you know, imagine blacking out, and then the very next memory you have is looking straight forward, like you had never passed out. Like here I am, passed out. Next thing you know, I'm like this, looking forward. It was very quiet. I'm looking forward. I don't know what's happening. I don't know why I'm there. I don't know what's going on. It's very eerie. I'm lying back in my bed. I sit up, so I'm sitting up. I was in a hospital bed, okay, so it was like this. It was on an angle, so that's why I'm kind of being able to see forward. I look to the side and I see that the table is gone, everything's gone, and I notice, because that was maybe in all just milliseconds, it was no more than 2 seconds that all what I just said happened. I can't breathe. I can't breathe at all, and I'm like panicking. I'm like, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. In the moment, I have a lot of difficulty in my throat. If you don't know, I have a throat disorder called throat dysphonia. It's a muscular disorder in my throat. So when I eat, it gets worse. So this is just a nightmare. I'll never forget this, okay? This is ingrained in this is just ingrained. When I noticed I couldn't breathe, when I turned my head like that, I saw my clock. It was exactly 2:59, and it turned to 3 a.m. It was a digital clock sitting on my dresser. 3 a.m. What the hell? Like what the hell, man? That happened to me. 3 a.m., the opposite time that Jesus Christ died. Do you understand? I'm so scared. I'm like, I can't breathe. I don't know how long it was, okay? I have no idea. And all of a sudden I hear something. It makes me feel good. And someone coming up the stairs. It's my dad. He comes in. He's surprised. The table's gone, so I guess he moved the table and the stuff that was there. The music is off. Excuse me. So I was out for some time, because if he went downstairs and it had to be some time. And from what I gather after a lot of talking to think it had to be about 5 minutes at least. That's my guess. What happened? So I'm just gonna keep telling this story to its end, and I'm gonna tell you what happened. I'm pointing to my throat. I'm sitting on the edge of my bed at that point, and you know, my dad said, "Just let go, just let go." And I'm thinking, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. And finally, I got something out. Okay, I got a word out. He said, "If you can get a word out, then you can breathe." Then all of a sudden, it came back to me. You know how scared I was? And it got to the point where I start getting like, what happened? You know, what happened? And like it was like at least 10 minutes before I got to that point. Because I just sat on my bed. I was just like pondering what had happened, recovering. And I'm scared. I'm like, he's like, "I'll take you to the hospital if you want. I'll take you to a hyperbaric chamber to repair any damage that it was done." And I didn't want to go because I didn't want to be under the yoke of somebody. Even though I did it legally, what I did was legal. What I did was legal. I spoke to the legal teams at least 5 different occasions. I wanted to make sure what I was doing was okay. You can understand why I don't want to tell this story, right? And why I erase it off my other stuff. So after about 10 minutes of just like getting up, pacing, sitting down, agitated, I say to my dad, "What happened? Like, how am I alive?" And he told me that some of the yeah, that was it. He said the tank had run out. It was too quick, and he didn't want to see me dry drown. I would have dry drowned with a mask on my face. And so he told me. He said when I did it, he saw my face turn gray pale. When I put it over, you know, like when I turned it on, put it over, but it was too quick. It was the wrong gauge. It was the wrong gauge, and I should have known better. But I was in such bad shape. I don't know. It only lasted for about 5. It had to be that long. I'll just say that. I was really angry. I was really angry that I lost my opportunity. It took a lot to get to that, and I tried to do it the right way, and I couldn't die. Do you understand what I'm telling you? Listen to part 1, 2, and 3. This is the end. Right before I decided to do that, by the way, or it might have been after. Yes, it was after. I was on a high dose of benzodiazepines because I had movement disorders in my body. I also have seizures too, so I need them, or at least I need some. And for the for my muscles in my body. But I didn't like the dose that I was on. It was just too big, and I thought it was making me sick. And one of them was, and I had removed a huge amount of it all at once. And this was a time I couldn't grieve my own mother because I was in so much distress, mentally, physically, spiritually. God saved me. I went through horrible withdrawals, and then I moved into here when I didn't get along with my dad. And I was glad for moving out here because I decided to employ long-acting painkillers, and when I did that, my life changed. Just something that had previously been causing me a lot of trouble in my abdomen. I have something called the splenic flexure syndrome, so you have to keep moving in order to go to the bathroom, if you want to go to the bathroom, you have to take very strict measures. And so I wasn't using it because I could never figure out before what the splenic syndrome was, why I couldn't go to the bathroom properly, all that type of stuff. But I figured it all out by the grace of God. God saved me. Do you not see? I went to the hospital later, and but I read if there was any damage in the time that I had between, like after it and between it. I didn't get imaged. Okay, I didn't go to the hospital for over 6 months. I think it was like a year, maybe even longer. It may have been 2020. I was so scared that there was something wrong. I got a CT scan. I went in. I told them what had happened. Strangely enough, when I walked in, the doctors, you know what they said to me? This is the best we've ever seen you in many years, which was a strange comment considering why I was there, but it was true. God wouldn't let me die. That's my story. I feel sorry that I had to include my dad to see that, and I hope that didn't affect him. I believe he's okay. He's a tough man, but if I would have died there, I wouldn't be here talking to you. I wouldn't be saved by God and waiting for salvation. It's a pretty rough story. I woke up, I saw 3 a.m., and I damn well knew what that meant. I knew what it meant in that very second. You know why? Because I knew already what it meant, but because God wanted to show me something. Or the devil wanted to show me something. Give me a second. I'm going to stop this, but I don't want to make another video. I want to make sure I've said what I want to say. I shouldn't be alive. I shouldn't be alive. I tried to do it in the best way I could, but it ended up in horribly. You can see why I erase this kind of stuff from my other videos, right? I mean, I told my story, and rightly so. I want to tell my story. I'm far from the only person who tries to take their life with this much pain. That is a common theme. I don't know how many people tell their stories, though. So that's what happened to me. Don't ever, if you're, suicide isn't the way. Number one, you're just going to end up hurt, or you're going to end up in, I don't know. I'm not sure if I want to say hell, because I really, honestly, I'm being as honest as I can with you. I don't know what God thinks about those who are so far gone that that's what they feel they have to do. Like, have you ever had a kidney stone? Can you imagine the worst of it? Having a baby, the worst of it. Can you imagine living like that all the time? That's my life, and that's just one of my pain disorders. CRPS and RST, nociplastic pain syndrome, known as the worst pains to mankind. Adhesive arachnoiditis is the most painful of all the disorders on earth. And there's a scale that shows, and I believe it's out of a 50 pain scale, out of 50. And a toothache is only at like 25. And this adhesive arachnoiditis and CRPS-like diseases are at like 42. Can you imagine? That's what I'm trying to share with you. But by the grace of God, I was saved. God bless. Thanks for watching.